Do you need golden eagles to assist with the grind? With today's sponsor, free GE for War Thunder, you can do so by completing simple tasks. And if you sign up with my promo code EPGEK, you will get 10 GE for signing up. But most importantly, you will be able to fund my future giveaways, where I will be able to hand out 5 to 10,000 golden eagles, depending on how much you guys have accumulated. Welcome back, my gooners. Today we are going to be taking a look at the F-4S Phantom. And I do think that this thing is a great grinder. However, as a plane, it is not all that. But I still silver this thing a few times a year. I made a video on this thing like 1.5 years ago. And back then, the plane was essentially the same. But the matchmaker has changed quite a few times in between those times. So I thought, why not revisit it just before the sales go live. And the F-4S is still, as a plane, not that fantastic. It's heavy, it doesn't turn particularly well, it's not super fast, it doesn't have the best acceleration, and all of this is simply made worse by the terrible gun that's strapped underneath your plane that I still recommend you to run. Because if you don't, you are essentially just flying around with your dick in your hand, and you really just get nothing done if your missiles aren't able to track. There's a new little change in this game right now, and that's your radar mode is going to change for you, which is very annoying. You can see right here, I'm running HMD mode, I'm running the PD mode, but because that guy went a little bit side aspect, it now goes to the HMD mode without the pulse Doppler mode, so I am not able to lock him up without changing it, well, by pressing a keybind. You need to set up these keybinds, and if you don't, you are gonna struggle, because now the radar is gonna change for you, and it's going to remember the last mode it was in. Now, if I lock someone in the head-on, and if I get him to fly towards me, it will go back to the HMD PD mode. Granted, if he actually flies high enough for me to lock him up properly. There it goes. Tracking from behind also means that you are not gonna get PD mode anymore. So if they are flying away and they drop a singular chaff, your missile is basically gonna go apeshit. And it becomes essentially useless. So this thing used to be completely carried by the missiles as well as just the radar set. The HMD mode. It has a ton of features that makes this thing quite easy to play. The issue is with the automatic radar mode, where I'm trying to get at, is that you basically need the gun, because you are gonna run into moments where you have to use your gun because your enemy is defeating your missiles properly, unlike Mr. F-14 directly in front of us. We guide it in, we blow him up, severe damage, he is going to be dead. And then we switch on over to the F-16 with the HMD mode, and you can see he notches us, it breaks lock, so instead of shooting sparrows at him, we are going to shoot an AIM-9H at him. They have good range, they are essentially AIM-9Gs with a better seeker head, and overall, they're pretty good missiles. They are very similar to something like an AIM-9L, obviously though without the all aspect capabilities. Sparrows are still sparrows, and sometimes they just refuse to do anything, making them kind of annoying to use, but I still use them over the AIM-9Hs, and that's why you see me run an asymmetrical loadout. Even though it kind of triggers my OCD, I still be a little bit more effective, and that's why you see me run 5 Sparrows and 2 of the Sidewinders. Now, if you want to do this or not, it's up to you. If you don't want to run the gun port, it's also up to you. It will make your flight performance just a bit more bearable, and it makes it so that you have to play around your team a little bit less, but keep in mind, if you get caught out guard, you also need your team even more now, because guess what? You don't have the ability to kill them at super close range. The Sparrow and the AIM-9Hs are more of a long range missile, it's more of a sniper plane, and if you try to like get into knife fights and you don't have a gun, you're going to die. Now luckily, if you run the gun port and you get into knife fighting, you're also going to die because the flight performance just is not there. Right now we are being run down by an F-20 as well as an F-15. I go up over the hill, I'm going to try to deny them the angle. And I'm just going to try to see if I can either get away from them, burn them out of fuel, get some separation, making it a 1v1 or something like that. I'm trying to pull something out of my ass here, but the F-20 is going to absolutely rinse me. And I need to start turning a little bit preemptively. We are on 8 minutes of fuel. We should be able to somewhat dogfight with him. We flare, we drop the afterburner, we turn into him. When he gets into gun range, we are going to cut inside of his loop, reverse him basically instantly, have some terrible aim, and then we... And then we go into the next match. Now, this match isn't particularly interesting, but there is something that I want to make you aware of. If you get someone on your 6, don't try to reverse them. Trust me, you're just going to die, even though it is an F-4S. Instead, I try to just kind of keep my speed somewhat and burn him out of energy, and then I just try to leave. And this is why I need to stay close to your team. In the background you can tell that I am not able to lock that guy up because my radar went back to the HMD mode without pulse Doppler. So we lock him up a little bit late, doesn't matter in the end, we fly away, we reset, and then we spend the next 30 seconds to get back up to Mach 1. You don't want to stay in the fight when you are on low energy, because you are just going to get your shit rocked. I don't recommend it. After that moment, I just flew away for like 20 to 30 seconds, got my speed back up, nothing happened, and by the time I'm back into the middle of the game is over. So it's very important with a plane like this that you keep the pressure on and that you don't get pressured yourself. Once you start getting pressured, you are essentially out of the match, and yes, you can recover it. It's not very reliable, and because the games are so short, taking like 30 to 60 seconds to recover your footing is essentially going to mean that the game is over. Whether their team is dead or your team is dead, you are not going to be carrying like 1v6 in this thing very often, unless it's like a down tier, or you get people that just all try to headbutt the missiles that you shoot their way. It is of course possible with dumb enough players, but that goes for every plane, so I'm not gonna pretend like this plane is any good at it. Right here is basically the perfect map for a plane like this. I don't have many defensive capabilities, so I like to just kind of hug the mountains, pop up over them, sneak attack them, ambush them, and then they just end up eating shit. They can't really pressure me when they don't see you, they can't really evade you if they don't know you're coming, and overall, maps like this, absolutely a blessing for a plane like this. Now of course you can do this in all the other planes that have good missile sets, and I recommend you to fly this way with essentially every top tier plane, because taking the pressure off you or avoiding pressure altogether is just going to help you tremendously to be more effective in most of your matches. The thing is, with a plane like this, if you are not able to do such a thing, it's actually going to hinder you quite a good amount. And that's kind of annoying, but at the same time it does teach you to fly effectively. If you can fly effectively in this plane, you are essentially going to be able to fly effectively in most of the planes that have a good missile set. Now of course the HMD is something that's very much a quality of life thing, and not on many of the top tier aircraft. But still, the way you fly this thing is a good teacher. But it is frustrating. It will be kind of rough if you aren't aware on how planes work, and I always recommend you to at least try something like a tier 3 plane, or at least some props, before you step into like top tier combat. Now I always compare this thing to the F-5C, and the F-5C is of course more a traditional plane. You have flight performance, most of your kills are going to be with guns. You only have 2 missiles, they are heat seekers, they don't have the most amount of range, they don't have the most amount of maneuverability. So I do think that that plane is going to be better if you have some experience in flying, whereas this thing is going to be a little bit easier to pick up, simply because if you don't care about dying after 1 kill, you should be able to just kind of throw yourself in, manage the radar modes, lock someone up, and the radar will do the rest of the work. With the F-4S, if you don't care about being super effective and you only care about grinding, this plane is a lot easier to pick up, because all you really need to do is slam yourself in there, lock onto some guys like in the head-on, and you are just probably going to get 1, 2, sometimes 3 kills without much effort at all. And you can see in the background material that I'm not really flying a plane. I am simply flying around in the map. I'm selecting things that I want to die, and the missile does the rest. And if you fly this way, you are going to get some results. But I warn you, don't say I didn't warn you, the plane is kind of mid, and I don't think it's super enjoyable to play, because if you get caught out, you basically can't do anything. But for the last time, yes, it's good for grinding, and it's very easy to pick up and do reasonably well in. The advice I was giving you at the start is mostly about being actually effective and trying to play around your weaknesses, which is what we are gonna do in this game right here. And yes, it is a down tier, and in a down tier, the equipment that you have on this thing is actually very good. AIM-7Fs at 10.3 are insanely strong, and it's not because the missiles are necessarily different, they are still just as easy to dodge as they are in an 11.3 plane. However, not many people at 10.3 run chaff, making these missiles quite hard to dodge if you don't know how to roll around it in the head-on. SU-22 comes in, and this guy will rinse me in a dogfight, so instead of trying to get slow behind him, reverse him, I'm gonna try to keep my speed somewhat, break off, and let my teammate do the rest. He kind of set himself up for disaster, but I actually accidentally drained his ball so hard and that he's not going to be able to pull out of that and slams into a mountain. Absolutely perfect. Otherwise the F5 would have rinsed him anyway, so at the end of the day it doesn't really impact the rest of this game. And now we're gonna play a little bit of a mind game. I'm gonna pretend to chase the tornado, then I dip between all these mountain ranges. I'm gonna turn the radar off, and I'm gonna hope that the F-4S is looking at the MiG-21, so that those two MiG-21s are actually not looking over here anymore, because they assume that I'm flying away from them. And now this MiG-21 just kind of pulls directly in front of me. We get a very easy crit in with the absolute piss gun, and we disengage. We are going 0.9 Mach. I'm not gonna contest. I'm gonna fly away and let that MiG-21 just kind of rot in midair. Now, that right there was my thought process. Whether it worked or not, I'm not sure. Yes, it worked, but did it work because of what I did, or were they not looking at me anyway? I have a very big talent for overcomplicating things, and then in the end, it kind of just worked out that way regardless whether I did it or not. But I like to think that my mind game there actually paid off. And that's your biggest strength in this playing. You have to play around the weaknesses, you have to play around like usual mistakes, read the match, and play accordingly. Because if you don't, this plane is gonna be a 1 to 2 kill machine, and that's really all you're going to get. That's another hit for the absolute piss gun. Now he has damage of the elevator. He's probably gonna die from that pretty quickly here, because he has someone else on his ass. There he goes, he gets gunned down by the F5E. Now the game is essentially over. We have 3 enemies left, and my entire team is gonna go RTB. Now I can go RTB with them. I can play it safe and make it back to the airfield, but if you are a grinder and if you are someone that doesn't really care about dying, like I am for the most part, then you are gonna be very well off just kind of sending it in and maybe getting 2 kills on people that are very full of fuel while you are very light. And this also makes your flight performance just quite a bit better. And here's another example on why I like having my radar off the second I run out of radar missiles. I'm behind the MiG-23, I pop up over a mountain, we shoot the missile his way, and he has no idea that I am there. Now he's dead, that's kill number 4. F-104 comes in, we are gonna turn in here, and we are simply going to just spray in the head on with my 529 rounds. Now the gun has terrible accuracy, has terrible damage, so in the end of the day it accomplishes literally nothing, and the F-104 is flying away. So I'm gonna fly away from him and intercept the last guy that is also taking off from the airfield. Now the F-104 is simply gonna fly away, he's gonna die to someone else, and I only going to get an assist from that. But I know that there is another guy over here, or at least I assume there is. I'm not sure what it is, I'm not sure how fast, what nation, and then it's a tornado. And the tornado isn't necessarily very hard to kill, so we are just gonna go into the mountain ranges here, because I'm not sure if it's an F3 or not. But it looks like he just isn't aware of my presence, so we just kind of shoot at him, we crit him, and we disassemble half his plane. Now we are gonna turn back after tornado, and I shouldn't have shot this missile at this guy. I should have shot it at the F-104 that's coming back in the background. But, you know, hindsight is 20/20. He goes down. F-104 comes back. We trade in like a head-on. We both miss each other, and then I run out of fuel. Very enjoyable indeed. Thank you all for watching, and you'll see me in the next one.